Hey guys, Nadia from Nadia's Crafty Corner here, and today I'm going to show you one of my favorite bows to make. It's not mine, I have learned it over the years from different coaches. However, it is a bow that allows me to use up lots of leftover ribbon. And we know as crafters, we have lots of that, right? In all different sizes and colors. We're going to start with a 4-inch ribbon. You don't have to. You can totally do it with a 2.5-inch. That's totally fine. And I always like to start with a 12-inch tail, especially if I'm just making bows, not for a specific project. I'm going to pleat the center, just like so. And I'm going to walk my ends together. That will give me a nice curve and a nice bump to my first tail. Okay? Once I've done that, the first thing you want to get used to is twisting. So you see the wrong side of the fabric. And you want to get used to that no matter what kind of ribbon you are using, even if the wrong side is the same as the right side. I think I forgot to mention that we do need wired ribbon to make sure our loops are nice and crisp. Now we can continue with our pretty bow. Pleat the center, walk the sides together, twist it, and start your first loop. Okay? Your first loop could be any size you want. I don't usually make them bigger than 7 inches. So this one is about 6.5 inches. And while I'm holding the bottom, I'm going to repeat the pleat and walk the ends together, making sure that all my corners and all my sides are not wonky like that, but nice and straight. And there's my first loop. This bow is going to have 2 tails and 2 loops. Now I'm going to twist again. Sounds like the song. And I'm going to make sure, once I twist, that I make my loop, but before I pinch, I want to measure my loops, making sure they're the same. I'm going to hold the bottom, pleat the center, walk it together. And there's my first part of my bow. I'm going to bring my other tail up because that's where I want it. I always like to double measure myself. And then you can go ahead and cut the tail. Now the top tail I usually make is smaller than the bottom. Because I'm showing you how to do this, I am going to put it down and not hold everything in my hands, okay? Makes it a little easier in the teaching process. What I do want to keep in mind is what side is my tail going, because going forward, I want the tail on the opposite side. So again, we are going to pleat, pinch, twist, loop, make the loop about 1 inch smaller than the previous one, pleat, pinch, and don't forget that twist. Make sure you loop, make sure you measure your loops. I'm struggling with the ribbon because I want to make sure you see. Measure those loops. I had to measure a couple of times, friends, right? But that's okay. That's what we do. We're just going to measure, make sure they're the same, pleat, pinch, and cut my other tail. And it's the same process. If you put it in your mind, pleat, pinch, twist, loop, measure. That's all there is to it. Okay? And that's our second part of the bow. 1 inch smaller. Now we're going to go back with another ribbon. You don't have to, but I'm going with a 1.5 inch, and it's the same exact thing. You want to go the opposite of the previous tail. You're going to pinch, pleat, twist, fold, measure, and cut. Once we have all our 3 parts together, you want to make sure your tails are alternated with each other. And I'm going to finish off showing you like a little some there. I didn't want to make more loops, so I just made a 2-inch little loop. Sorry, it's off camera, but it's just a little loop with 2 long tails that you want to make sure they're both on the right side. And we're going to put that in the center. Now it's time to combine all our 3 different colors together. And I love to use zip ties in this case. It just makes it a lot easier. And what I do is I close the bow with a zip tie, but before I close it all the way, I do insert another zip tie. So that way, if I'm using it on a grapevine or whatever wreath I'm using it for, I can always put an extension to the zip tie, but it's nice and secure. When you're fixing your loops, you want to alternate them. You don't want to have the red next to the red. You want to alternate your colors, spread those loops, and because you use the zip tie, that's going to be very easy and comfortable to do. Dovetail your tails if you want to. If I'm making bows for a day, I really don't do it until I put it onto the project itself because I might want them shorter. I might not want them dovetailed. You never know what we might want for that project, right? If you wanted to, you could make the top and the bottom tails both short. It doesn't have to be one longer than the other, so they could all be the same on all sides. Hope you enjoyed my favorite bow to make.